begin geocaching?
When I was out traveling, some of my friends were doing this, and I had no clue what was going on, but went with them, learned about it, and then when we got back to our respective homes, I would be on internet talking to my friend in Florida, finding out what geocache or instrument to buy to geocache with. So that's how I started.
Well, many years ago, I was channel flipping through the TV and saw some kind of special on something like the Discovery Channel that was the top 10 treasures, and it was talking about things like Blackbeard's treasure and different things like that, and then it said high-tech treasure, geocaching, and I got really interested in that, so I wrote down the website and checked it out and then got into it from that.
There was an article in the Village Voice about geocaching, and it was on New Year's Day. Well, the paper actually came out before New Year's Day, but I read it on New Year's Day. And we went that day and found a cache at the Balboa Gate. And we had an old GPS that took us out in the middle of the road. And then we just had to start hunting, and we found the cache up in the woods, up the hill.
What exactly is geocaching? Essentially, it's a 21st century treasure hunt using a GPS retriever. With a set of coordinates, explorers can venture to find hidden items that are scattered all across the globe. The GPS, or Global Positioning System, was developed by the U.S. Department of Defense. This satellite navigation system was developed for military use, and consequently, the signals were scrambled, limiting accuracy for civilian use to about 100 meters. However, on May 2, 2000, President Clinton announced that this scrambling of signals, known as selective availability, would be cast aside. As a result, civilians were able to enjoy accuracy on the order of 10 meters. On May 3, 2000, the very next day, Dave Ulmer proposed a way to celebrate the demise of selective availability. He hid a bucket of trinkets in the woods of Beaver Creek, Oregon, just outside of Portland, and announced its location in a posting made to an online news group. The only rules that were set in place were take something, leave something, sign the logbook, and start again. Dave Ulmer invented geocaching in one fell swoop in that news group posting. Within a day, the original stash had been found. Within a week, more stashes had been hidden in California, Kansas, and Illinois. Within a month, a stash had been hidden as far away as Australia. The hobby was fast on its way to becoming a worldwide phenomenon. As with all activities, indoors or outdoors, there is always some risk that is presented, and there are some things that you should be aware of before trekking out to find your first geocache. For instance, environmental factors can either help or hinder in your search. Of all the things to be aware of, guarding your body from the elements has to be the most important. Since geocaching is an activity that is not limited to a specific season, there are appropriate precautions that you must take to keep yourself safe in each individual climate. For example, clothing acts as a shield for your body, and while it's not completely impenetrable, it can keep your body temperature at a safe level, prevent illnesses that are generally caused by harsh climates, and significantly decrease your likelihood of being poked, scratched, or even bitten by the active insects of the area. There are other precautionary measures that can be taken, however, and some do not need to be observed as often as others. For instance, in hotter months, it's always good to wear sunblock on the most exposed areas of the body whenever you are exposed to direct sunlight. In addition, it is appropriate in any season to bring along a can of bug repellent.
Do you remember your first cache that you went out and found?
I remember the first one I tried to find, and I remember the one I actually found. The first one I tried to find, the GPS I had was not very good, and I looked and looked and looked and couldn't find it. And it wasn't later till I got a better GPS and went out looking for it that I found out the first one I went for was actually a virtual cache, which means there's not a physical container there. That you see something and you're supposed to record, email the owner and say, here's what I found. So I didn't know that. I was kind of stupid about it, I guess. And then the first one I found was called Beaver's Lair, and that was in Russellville, and it was an ammo box, and it was kind of neat. It's out in a swampy area, and I found it in the middle of summer when there's a lot of mosquitoes and the heat and poison ivy and water moccasins around.
So what kind of precautions should cachers who aren't too experienced take when they go?
Take plenty of water in the summertime. Let somebody know where you're going to be if you're going alone. That's always a good idea. And carry a cell phone if you have one, and carry bug spray. Just be aware of your surroundings. You can never know when you can run into a snake, or in the summertime, I ran into a bear north of Jesseville back this summer. And you know, that's you're going to run into wild animals if you're out in the woods. Now, if you're in the city, you're not going to, you know, you got to be aware of the people. So.
And what are some of your favorite local caches?
There's one out on Highway 270, the Tin Man.
The Tin Man.
I don't remember exactly what it's called.
Yeah. It's called the Tin Man.
The Tin Man. Mm-hmm. There is a cemetery cache that is an old smallpox cemetery in Hot Springs. There's a cache in that, and there's nothing spectacular about the cache. It's just the old cemetery is really amazing to me, and there are actually holes where the graves are sunk in, and you could actually fall in a hole and be there for a while.
Do you have any crazy stories with those out-of-state caches?
I'm sure I have a lot, but the one that stands out is the time I picked up the cache out of the trunk of a tree, and there was a snake coiled up under it, and then I just fell to the ground. I almost fainted. I do not like snakes.
At this cache, we searched for several minutes in a radius of about 30 feet around the cache. Sometimes your coordinates are exact and sometimes they aren't. We found this cache about 12 feet from our coordinates. This was our first swag cache that we found. We found the business card left by the cache owner. A lot of geocachers use business cards with their geocache account names. This cache also included a handmade fly. That is the signature swag left by fly fishing cachers. This is their way of incorporating their two passions, fly fishing and geocaching. Most of the caches we found that day were along main roadways. It was interesting looking at the logs. We could tell that a lot of people geocache while traveling. There were a lot of out-of-state entries. We got a Army sticker. We have a patch, American catcher, patch thing. And a True Blue Water Sports card. Looks like today's date is the 29th. This is Cobra East. Geocaching. Okay. It says the geocache is by Zeke and George.
Do you have any other tips for new cachers?
Just enjoy it. And
You need to go equipped with flashlights. And some kind of tweezers or something.
tweezers, yeah, stuff to pull some of the logs are real small and pull the caches out and logs out. But
All right, what's the farthest you ever traveled and found a cache?
Vienna, Austria.
We went a river tour in Germany and Austria, and while the women went to the Christmas market, there was 3 of us guys that would go out and do some caching on that. And then one place on that trip, it was a rainy day, and so we thought we would hire taxis to take us around. The taxi driver did speak English, and none of us spoke German. And so she had a city map, and with our GPS and some pointing and mentioned certain street, she took us around, and we found 5 caches that morning, I believe. Got pretty wet, but those 5 caches cost the 3 of us $60. Well, €60. So what would that?
That would have been
$70, $80, I guess,
Yeah.
at that time. So that was a pretty expensive trip that day.
But they were determined to find a cache at every time the ship stopped on the Danube. They would go find caches. They had it all mapped out, loaded in. Nobody knew because they were all in German or whatever, language, so they couldn't figure out what it said. So.
But
All right, and what are some of your favorite caches you've found in the Arkansas area, or maybe a Hot Springs area locally?
Well, let's see. I like the ones in the state parks. I think those are really neat. I've done not a lot in Hot Springs itself, but I've done a lot north of here, like around Hot Springs Village. And there's a lot of nice caches up in that area if you get out in the National Forest. One of the caches, or a series of caches that I've really enjoyed, actually starts in Little Rock near Pinnacle Mountain State Park, and it's they're hidden along the Washita Trail, which is a hiking trail that goes from that park into I can't remember the name, Talamina Park, I think it's called, in Oklahoma. It's 225 miles long, and there's a series of caches, like 150 caches that are hid about every 1/10 of a mile or 1/3 of a mile apart. So you can hike quite a distance and pick up a lot of caches. But I've done it over multiple days. But you need to carry plenty of water and let somebody know where you're at.
All right, do you have any advice for any new cachers coming in?
Go to events, meet the people, learn all you can, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
maybe start with the lesser terrain and difficulty. You get a little bit of experience under your belt, so to speak.
Now, don't start out with a 5.5 geocache.
What's your favorite part of geocaching?
My favorite part, I'll say hiding, making and hiding caches.
The people that you meet, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
places that you see.
The people that you meet are absolutely some of the best people in the entire world. The places that the geocaches sometimes will take you, we've been to the highest waterfall in the Washita Mountains, thanks to a geocache. We went to a geocache out in Jesseville that's at a waterfall just recently. Places like that you would have no idea existed without there being a geocache there and a GPS to lead you in.
People will place caches at places of historic or scenic, and the locals know the places, and that the local geocachers are willing to share their treasures with all the other geocachers. And when we place caches at places dear to us.
We've got caches on Lake Greason. We've got caches on islands on Lake Washita. Just places that we find special or beautiful.
I just like kind of the challenge of it. I like I think it exercises the brain, and I like that. And I like getting out in the outdoors and hiking. I prefer some that require a little bit of a hike or out in the woods somewhere versus urban hides, and if possible. And I do both, but I really like getting out in the outdoors, and it really can take you to some neat places.
People.
We've met a lot of nice people in this activity.